going on, everybody? Episode 210 of the White Cat Outdoors podcast. Bring you to the table while we talk about the outdoors. This week, we've got a well-known guest, Austin Enderline, in studio once again, this time with a big buck story. Actually, Austin's biggest buck to date, we believe. Hasn't been officially scored, but we're thinking it's going to be his number one buck. Austin picked up a lease down in Ohio and spent hundreds and hundreds of miles in the truck back and forth between PA and Ohio, scouting and hunting and scouting and hunting back and forth, and it finally paid off for him here in rifle season. So we got him in studio to tell the full story. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to quit rambling, and let's get tuned in to this week's episode.
The cardinal's in. I pull up my bow, and then I look dead at his antlers. I got out of the truck, and when I slammed the door, I heard gobbles all around me.
Let's see it.
Alaska, moose, spot and stalk. That is the bucket list. I agree.
White Cat Outdoors. White Cat Outdoors.
What's going on, gang? Rifle season's over in PA, but
Sure is.
Deer Camp series is still rolling. We got so many big bucks to talk about. We got to keep it going.
Yeah, we're a little backed up on stories. But
Speaking of backed up,
what?
we got Austin in the studio tonight.
Nice. That's what I was getting to here, is that we have a special guest in the studio once again. AE, what's going on, buddy?
Good to be back. Man, I feel like it's been a while, but here I am.
It's been too long, if you ask me. Last week we had a story from Tom and Frank, and another one from Tom on his Fisher. But those were just doe kills. We brought you in studio because something spectacular happened in the deer woods for you this year.
Not only that, but something spectacular happened on Christmas Eve.
What happened on Christmas Eve? Oh, right.
Are you guys that stupid?
No. We made Austin a for real partner now. He's in
Yeah.
the business. He's
Austin
way in
That
it.
is true.
Is an
yes.
official member of White Cat Outdoors. Let's give it up for Austin, everybody.
Oh, man.
I should maybe just inlay a lot of clapping and cheering there.
So
Like
it's
a
official.
90s sitcom with the laughing and the clapping.
Yeah, a little Seinfeld or something. So Austin,
Glad you're on board.
Yeah, we're
thank
happy
you.
to have you,
That's
babe.
I
awesome.
feel like Tom's just going to interrupt completely on this episode a lot.
No.
Tom got
Should
out of
be
work
pretty
early
good
today.
for the rest of the evening.
Tom got out of work early today and made a quick pit stop at the local Fat Willie's bar. So we apologize now. So Austin, I want to back up a little bit here. I believe we did talk about your Ohio lease earlier on in the year.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, give us a quick recap about this new lease. You obviously don't have to give us away locations. We don't need you giving that valuable information away. But start with the new lease and everything like that. What you did at the property, and then let's just get into it. What happened this year?
Right. So this was new for me, starting a lease this year in Ohio. And, the ETA from here to there is probably 4.5 hours.
So it's not just a quick
no.
go hunt an evening and come back.
Yeah, it was always a weekend trip going down there. And my dad was a part of it before, years prior. And I always heard good things about it. And there was always about several other guys on it too as well. And they shot a pretty nice buck. I can't remember how many points it was, but it was scoring close to 150 or higher. So I was always down to do it. So this year, I got my first taste of it going down there and turkey hunting and scouting the land and seeing what was planted and other such. But it is 250 acres, and there is one nice field planted there. And this year was beans, which was nice. And it goes through a couple other properties that next door beans and corn.
So you got a lot of ag around you.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of food for these whitetails down there.
So how much would you say, like, acreage of timber, like huntable timber, do you have?
I mean, if out of 250 acres, there's probably 50 acres of beans, and then the rest was all...
Okay, so you got some area to move around in.
Yeah, ravines. I mean, definitely one steep ravine, and then the rest is... I mean, there's clear cuts. I mean, anything you want all around there. But...
So it sounds just like a slam dunk of a spot.
It's pretty nice, yeah. I mean, you're paying for it for the lease, that's for sure.
Sounds like it was worth it, though, in the end here. It was what we'll get into.
Yeah.
So how, like, just go, like, real quick right through how your archery season went down there, a little bit of your trail cameras. Like, what were you seeing throughout the season?
So I started out during the summertime. I had a couple salt blocks out. Didn't think I was going to really be my main goal is having feed out with all that feed all around through there. But, yeah, throughout the summer, there was some nice bucks. I mean, definitely way bigger than what I shot, too. But, yeah, we get down to archery season, and leaves still in the trees. I didn't really know where I was going to have my stands yet, being my first time down there. I mean, as soon as archery or rifle season hits, the whole map changes. But
the other guys that are on the lease, do they live closer? Are they all like local guys that have to commute farther?
We're all local. I mean,
so it's not like everybody's there
yeah.
all the time, and every time you show up, you got 7 other people to contend with for a spot. You're kind of...
Yeah, most of those guys there, they all rifle hunt. And there was a couple archery hunters this year, but, I mean, it was just mostly me down there during archery. But, yeah, I mean...
So you did you bought a mobile setup this year,
Yeah.
like above your climber. Did that come into play at all this year at the lease, or?
I did use my Lone Wolf quite a bit. Looking around different spots, seeing which camera was hot, and that's what I would sit by. But I feel like 99% of the time those big bucks were in the middle of the night or early in the morning. Like, it was always dark getting a picture of those big bucks. There was never a daytime buck picture. And I had like 8 cameras down there.
So with 8 cameras down there, like, I mean, were they mostly on like field edges and scrapes and stuff?
Field edges, I mean, you name it. I literally had it everywhere. Like
did you have any like
thick? Like I found old scrapes. I put them on, which I found turned hot right at the end of October, where it started getting the rut, and that was like the first time I had a big buck picture, like shootable daylight.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, it was hit or miss. I mean, I don't know if it was possible to shoot a decent buck down there in daylight, but it was all a learning curve. I mean, that was totally new down there, and
it's your first year. I mean, anytime we've ever hunted a property for the first time, that first year is a lot of just learning the property and seeing what happens. You know, my dad bought the farm in Cambridge, and this is the first buck that Tom this year was the first buck he killed there since my dad got it.
It was the first buck anybody's killed since Dad got it.
Yeah, that's true. So, like, it took a couple years for us to learn, because we had hunted it in the past, and we had killed bucks there. But right before my dad had bought it, the whole property was logged. So it totally changed the way that deer were moving through the property, and it took us a good 2 to 3 years to really learn what's happening again.
And then even to expand off of that, like I talked about last week, I have some fisher traps out there right now. And walking the trails the past 2-3 days, checking my fisher traps, I've found some new spots that we haven't hunted that should really be taken into consideration to hang a stand there next year.
So, a slow archery season, but obviously you didn't give up on it. So going into rifle season, did your tactics change or anything? Like, what was I guess what was your thoughts going into rifle season after archery?
So yeah, after archery, I mean, I really learned a lot just being down there. I mean, I really thought the beans were going to be hot during archery.
Mm-hmm.
They love those green leaves, just snacking on them, coming out a little bit early. Didn't get a break to catch one there. And, I mean, as soon as rifle season started, I mean, the guys started coming down, and we were picking names for or stands down there.
So it was like a random draw?
Yeah. Which I knew beforehand that's what it was going to be. I was totally okay with.
It's not a
So
terrible
how does
way
that
to
work?
do it.
Do they like say, okay, we're drawing for this stand, and then they draw a name, or do they draw a name and say, okay, this person, you get to pick your stand?
We draw twice, so every stand's numbered, and then we draw once. I forget how we did it, but we drew
So you have
twice.
like a name, like a hat with stands and a hat with names, and you just 1-1.
Yep.
That's okay. I guess for a lease, you know, everybody's putting in, you know, equal to it. I guess that makes sense to do it that way. So there's not, there can't be any like, well, that guy always gets the best stand. You know, it's just totally random.
Oh, it was totally fair. I mean, so actually, I ended up that first weekend we were down there. I can't remember the day it was.
I know rifle season opened on a Monday.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we were there on Monday, and I shot my buck on a Tuesday. So the Monday, I was sitting there. I drew a stand. I mean, it was in a pretty good spot. I mean, the one they shot in prior years was a little bit up the hill, and it was a good crossing. I mean, this whole property is a crossing area in between other properties. It's pretty much all it is. But I passed up a nice 8-point. I mean, it came right underneath me within 10 yards, and it was hard to pass up, but I did it. And
Probably a buck you would have shot in PA or New York.
Yeah, I
but
probably would have shot him at PA in New York, but I mean, it was.
And that was Monday, so opening day you saw that 8-point.
Yeah, that was about 9 o'clock in the morning, which was cool to see. I mean, if I see a buck like that, I was happy overall. But
So by the end of your sit Monday, are you starting to like a little regret on not shooting that buck, or were you okay with passing?
no, I was okay. I mean, it had to be within around 130 or higher. That was what I was going for.
Okay.
No matter what.
And I tell you what, it is really tough for an 8-point to hit that 130 mark. That's a stud of a deer.
Yeah. I mean, this one was probably, I mean, it was close. It was 115, 120. I mean, it was
That's a
a
good
nice
buck.
8-point. Yeah. But, I mean, even at 8 yards, you're looking at it, you got your sight on them, you're like, oh, man, I can't do it.
I guess that's, if you have to think about it, it's
Yeah.
probably best, especially opening day.
Right.
So day 2, is the whole crew still in camp, or?
Yeah, we're all there. I mean, we all got the hotel together, and I mean, it comes to that second morning. We're all out there. We all
Back
got
to
our,
the same stands, or do you guys redraw?
We all redraw that. We
Oh,
all go
okay.
out to dinner and have a couple margaritas and redraw. And
I love the margaritas.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, I drew my second stand, and I had a feeling that was a great spot anyway, and everyone else redrew too, and we started off that morning, and I mean, it was cold and windy. I mean, unlike right now, it's like 58 degrees.
Yeah, it's crazy how warm it is right now.
Cold and windy, though, that just makes them big bucks get right up on their feet and
It was
move
cold.
about.
It was low 20s, and it was blowing hard.
I love it. I feel like I'm there.
Yeah, and then, so I'm sitting in the stand. I mean, this stand is not the greatest by any means. And I'm getting daylight. I mean, there's a 4-wheeler trail where I'm capable of shooting down. It kind of bows up towards me. It goes back down the hill. And I'm sitting there. It's just getting daylight. And I could just start to see. I've never sat here before. And I'm looking around, starting to see what I could shoot, and like different shooting lanes I could hit. Wind's blowing, super cold. So I'm all bundled up. I'm pretty much just got my hood up, like 3 hoods up, and a beanie. I mean, I can't hear anything to save my life.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting there. I'm just doing a pivot, left and right pivot.
Head on a swivel. I like it.
Yeah. So I stood there. I mean, it was a slow morning. Didn't see anything. No one else saw anything either. And, I mean, some guys are getting cold, ready to get down. They're sending a message and be like, all right, I can only make it till noon. And sure enough, I was doing my pivot. I look one way, and I look the other way, and I look back over on the four-wheeler trail. I saw a tail wiggle. And just the back end of the deer. I couldn't tell what it was because it was like behind the tree going into the brush. I'm like, oh man, what was that? So I get my gun up and I'm looking and I start to see some horn. I'm like, okay, all right. I could see what this is kind of. I couldn't, he was just on a strong, heavy walk, like almost a prance going through the brush.
He knew where he was going and he was just walking. He was just browsing.
And I was on the middle of the hill in between two thickets, and he's cruising up through the thicket. He's like kind of going up the hill toward like above me and cuts over across, and he starts cutting up. I could tell he was a good buck. I couldn't see what he was yet, and I get my gun up. I'm trying to get him to. I'm trying to get situated where I get a good rest, and this stands super loud. Even with my my hood up and everything, I'm creaking away. Oh man, it was driving me nuts. But he starts going up across the hill. I mean, he's almost 90 degrees from me from last saw him, and then he starts cutting over across, and I go meh, 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 and I'm like screaming at him, trying to get him to stop. And then he stopped and he looks at me and I can only see half his rack. I mean, just the tip of his ear and out over, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. So I flicked the safety off and I couldn't get a shot then. So he starts going again. And I try to stop him 2 more times, and then I finally got a good
That's risky
walk.
business trying to stop him after he moves again, because sometimes they'll jump on that.
But he didn't seem like he was startled. He was just
Well, it's probably because it was so windy. He wasn't super alerted to whatever the sound was. He was like, maybe I heard something, maybe not.
Yeah, and he even went downwind to me. Never even smelled me either.
Mm-hmm.
But
I feel like those real heavy wind days.
It's probably blowing right over his back. He don't even smell you.
Yeah, but I mean, he kept going, and I finally got a good walk. I mean, it was this moment, or that was it, because I literally took a kind of a prancing shot, and I shot, and I knew I hit him because his back legs kicked up, and then he kind of spun around and trotted off over the little. There was like a second little ravine, and I didn't see him after that, and I texted the guys, he's going right at you. And then he never saw him. So I waited an hour. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get down and look. Everyone get ready. So I'm going down looking for blood where I shot him. And I saw some blood there. And then I started walking a little more. And he started really bleeding out. And then, sure enough, I found him in that little dip. Just right where I couldn't see over.
It seems like they always...
Yeah,
it's like
just out of sight.
Yeah, like enough to where you're like, oh, I wonder if he went down. And they always just seem to find that spot where it's like you saw him running, and then you just never can pick him back. You're like, I think he's down in there.
Yeah, yeah, sure enough, he was right there.
So what was he?
He was an 8.
Big 8.
Big 8. Yeah.
So
that was the one that haunted me. I was gonna have that week off during the rut. It was that Halloween weekend. That is like my favorite weekend, that whole week. And that, sure enough, he was there right at that scrape.
So you had pictures of this guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and those pictures haunted me. I'm like, dang it, I should have been there. But, I mean, I'm just happy if anyone would have shot that buck. I mean, if out of the 7 guys down there, if any of them got that one, I mean, that was enough for all of us.
Well, I mean, he was one of the top bucks you guys had pictures of, wasn't he?
Yeah, that one was running around a lot. Actually, he didn't come in until, like, the beginning of October.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your best buck to date, correct?
I think so, yeah.
You haven't put a tape to him yet, have you?
No, I did shoot another heavy 8, but No, this one probably would score more.
So this one just seemed like it had great
Real
beam
nice
length.
tine length.
Yeah, it looks like it had really big beams, super tall tines, good mass on it. He just seemed like everything you want in a buck he had.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it was definitely awesome. Yeah.
as Tom would say, a real humdinger.
Absolutely.
Well, jeez.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Everyone's going to love to hear that.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. I am super happy for you, especially first year on the lease. Smoke a big buck like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Just makes it all worth it. All them trips, sleeping in the tent in the back of your truck.
Stolen camera.
Oh, dude, I didn't even hear it. You had a
I
stolen
didn't know you
camera.
had a stolen camera. Either.
Yeah, I got a camera stolen, which is,
It's actually a pretty good story.
Well, I think I had 8 cameras down there total, Tacticams. I mean, sure enough, middle of summer, got one on a salt block. I mean, it was kind of close to the property line, but never had any suspicion of someone stealing it. And
Was this
sure
probably
enough-
like the one that wasn't a cell cam or what?
Oh, it was a cell cam. I got a picture of him.
Oh, okay.
Nice
I do
guy
remember.
coming in with a big pocket knife.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
big
really?
Bowie knife. For what reason that
Ready to
is.
cut that strap off.
Yeah, he didn't take long to steal that one.
What a
but-
dirtbag.
I mean, this is hillbilly BFE down there.
Mm-hmm.
I had another picture of a guy on our property that had a pickaxe just walking around.
Just hanging out with his pickaxe all day.
Yeah. You never know what you find down there.
Yeah, Ohio's different. We've turkey hunted there, and Frank and I have deer hunted over there. It's not hard to find some different culture in that area.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
meth labs.
I don't know if we ever talked about that on the podcast, but Sharpie and I did stumble across a meth lab
Really?
turkey hunting. Yeah, we were hunting like deep into some state land, and
Kind of that shit you'd see on, like, remember the old TV show Moonshiners?
Mm-hmm.
And they go way back in the woods to brew their shine.
yeah, we're like way back in, and like out of nowhere, we start seeing these like orange tags, like in the trees. Like, oh, that's weird. So we're like,
follow them.
we didn't really follow them, but like they were
Just in the direction you were already
yeah.
going.
So we were going down that way, and about probably quarter of a mile down, and I don't know how far back the orange tags, but we just were kind of caught them on a cross. We get up, and there's this like little clearing, and there is like 2-liter bottles filled with match heads and like hoses and beakers. I'm
You
like,
think people wouldn't put tags to get to their meth lab?
Keith and I like walk up, and we're like, I mean, there was red phosphorus like everywhere. I'm like, this isn't an accident. I'm like,
Yeah.
now we're like, okay, some meth head's gonna come out and like
Yeah, try
hit
to
us with their
fucking kill
pickaxe
ya.
or something. But yeah, so we backed out of there pretty quick. But yeah, you never know what you're gonna find deep in the woods.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah.
But well, thank you, Austin. That was
Yeah.
I'm super happy for you.
Thank you.
Nobody deserves it more than I know. You put in so much time to go hunt that property you were down there a lot of weekends, and then even the weekends you weren't, you were still doing your thing up in Clymer with us, which we greatly appreciate.
Yeah, getting out of work at 5:30 in the morning after working all night and driving 4.5 hours down there. And you're like a zombie. As soon as you get down there, you're like, okay, I got to hunt the rest of the night and I'll be good. And then you're done there and you're trying to find a hotel. And then, oh my gosh, how many days I did that? That was...
Why were you
Straight-
staying in a hotel when you had the truck bed tent?
Well, if it was raining hard, I wasn't going to bring it. Like, I'd check the weather, and you are not going to sleep a lot inside of a windy tent all night, and I figured that out pretty quick.
Trial and error.
Those coyotes down there, they will scream all night long.
Really,
Yeah.
I tell you what, Frank and I are really good at finding shitty hotels. And
I
those,
feel like all of us are pretty good at that.
yeah, I guess we've all kind of got a knack for that. Like I don't think I've ever spent more than $60 on a hotel while I'm hunting, and many times I've done it for under 50.
Yeah.
So
That's what you look for.
Mm-hmm.
When me and Keith hunted Coshocton, we stayed in a Super 8 motel. And
so you guys went nice.
oh, yeah. Super. So nice. Minus the bloodstained mattress. In the lobby, there was autographed photos of all the celebrities that had stayed there. And the only one I can recall is Brad Paisley.
Oh yeah.
Brad Paisley stayed at that Motel 8.
Yeah, supposedly.
You know, it's all fun and games till you find bed bugs. That's all I gotta say. That'll ruin your night.
I've had 5 gallons of paint spilled on the floor in a hotel room.
Ashtrays in a non-smoking room, cockroaches, no hot water.
I had one time I walked into a
hotel manager or motel manager lives in room 1.
The one time I went to a hotel, Frank was already there, and I asked the guy, I want the closest room to Frank Myers. The guy didn't ask for any ID, no reason why. Like,
just Nick gave him $50 cash, and he's like, "Okay, this is his room. I'll put you right next to him."
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Like he didn't take my ID, didn't take a credit card, nothing. I handed him $50 cash and asked him to put me in the closest room to Frank Myers, and he did. I was like, "This is nice."
We could probably have an episode on some of the freaking shitholes we've stayed in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Kansas alone.
Yeah, Kansas alone was. I stayed in a whole string because we were like bouncing all over the state. So it was like one night here, 2 nights there, one night there. Yeah, that was some really bad hotels. But anyway,
motels.
Yeah. Tom, anything you need to say before I close her out?
No, that should about do it.
All right. Well, guys, I think this is we're nearing the end of the Deer Camp series. I got one more monster buck story coming. Saving best for last. So
it might not be the last. We still got New York in line. I got a buck tag yet.
I still have a buck tag in PA for late season. So,
well, if any of you guys beat this monster I'm talking about,
yeah, I don't have anything on camera that's gonna beat that one.
I mean, this is like close to Boone. Like
it's big.
It's massive. It's actually, I think it's the biggest deer we've ever had on the podcast. So I'm super excited about that. I'm sure the guy that's going to be telling the story is going to listen to this episode. So look forward to that coming down in the near future. But on that note, you guys had already heard, season's not over, so make sure you guys are all still getting outside.